What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Art Shack. This video I'm going to be covering part 7 of how to draw the mountains in the mist. In this video I'm going to be pretty much covering how to draw these 3 trees that show up in the drawing. These are pretty simple to do. It's just going to take quite a bit of repetitive detail and stuff like that. Nothing too much to worry about, so don't worry, you're in good hands. I'll show you the way. Alright, so before this video gets too out of hand, let me just find everything that I need. Basically, the whole tree, for the most part, can be drawn in... you can do it in one shade of pencil, that's fine. I usually do it in 2. I'll usually use about a 2H, or maybe a B and a 2B, or a 2H and just 2 different pencils. I'm just trying to sharpen up everything so that way I'm good to go here. I think my pencil sharpener is starting to not work on me here. I go through so many pencils, it's kind of ridiculous. Okay, so for the first part of the tree, let me take the camera and zoom in just a tad there. Stop shaking. It's the one bad thing about this setup. Otherwise, it's really good, but as soon as I touch the camera, it shakes like crazy. So, alright, so I'm going to try to keep my fingers out of the detail range or from your field of view so that you guys can really see what's going on. The tops of the trees, I think, are what sell, that it's a tree. So, notice I'm really far up on the pencil here. I'm really kind of uptight about it. And then with this, you want to have the pencil on its side. I'm doing the underhand grip here. And just start working in some very small detail. I think what would really help is to have the reference photo of the original drawing up so that you can see what's going on. So, you want to start off really, really small, fine detail and kind of work it out as you go down the tree, ever so slightly. The greatest thing about, or the most important thing about drawing trees is you want to have it look sort of random. I guess that's the best way I can explain it. Basically, you don't want to have, like, if there's a tree branch coming out this side, you don't want to have a tree branch coming out the same way on both sides all the way down the tree. That'll make it look very, very, like, manufactured or man-made. So you want to have, the organic sort of look to it so that, it looks like it's not man-made or anything like that. So for the tops of the trees, it's not too big of a deal, but as you start working your way down, so like notice here, I'm going to start working out some sort of tree branch over here, something like that. But on this side, I won't put in too much, but see, like down here, I'll start to do this as well. And the other thing you don't want to do is make like a ladder effect. Yeah, because if I were to have one branch here, one branch here, one branch here, one here, one here, one here, it would start to look like a ladder almost. So, you want to keep everything just, different, irregular. That way it doesn't look like it's like man-made or manufactured or anything like that. And just keep in mind, too, that some areas don't have to have branches coming out of it. You can have some areas that are just completely barren. But it's all up to you and how you want to do it. And this is the area where it's really going to pay off that you left, like, put in almost no detail in the background down here. This is where it's really going to pay off because the amount of work that you have to put in just to eliminate what's back here is going to be minimal. Because remember, if we had put in a lot of detail here, pressed really hard with that pencil and done a lot of detail, we would have had a really fun time trying to get this tree to show up on top of that. As in, it wouldn't be fun at all. You'd probably really start to get frustrated, because normally I do. So that's what's always good about having some sort of plan or idea of what you want to go and where. That's why in the first video I did the sketch. That way you can kind of just get a basic idea of where everything is going to be laid out. That way there's no surprises. It's always a good idea just to have some clue as to what is going to happen in the drawing. So this first layer is pretty light, so I'm doing it with a 2H pencil. So it's very light. It's not really showing up too well on over this mountain here, which is not a big deal. This is gonna be pretty much like the highlight side of the tree anyway. Or it's, you know, I'm gonna add in darker pencil just to kind of make this look like the highlight, I guess I should say. As you work your way down towards the bottom of the tree, that's where it starts to get a little bit complicated. The detail isn't as prominent, I guess you could say. Well, at least not when I draw my trees. The tops of them always look great, but as you work your way down, it always starts to get a little bit tricky because you're basically doing the same thing here, but doing the same thing but just larger, and it can start to lack in detail and start to kind of lose its effect, I guess you could say. But just adding in a lot of pencil strokes, you know, helps to add in that extra detail that's needed. And as you work your way down, you want to gradually make the tree wider and wider, but not too much. I don't want to make like a Christmas tree effect going on, you know, with a really huge bottom to these. I don't want to do that. I just want to kind of have them, you know, very, very narrow, you know, like pencil trees, I guess you can say. I don't want to have them like, you know, go really crazy at the bottom. So I always make sure to kind of add in something in the middle and then just kind of work my way out. But this is only the first layer. I'm probably going to add in a second and then go back in a third time just to add in some more detail work. Alright, so just working my way down a bit more here. Yeah, this really isn't showing up that well at all, but like I said, it's not too big of a deal. This is the light layer anyway. So I'm still doing the underhand grip, just working my way down the tree here. When I get past this area, it'll start to show up again. Okay, let me zoom back out again. That way you'll be able to see the base of the trees again, just like that. There we go. Now just gotta wait for the tripod to stop shaking. Okay, we're pretty good. I'm gonna kind of skip this area here and kind of continue down here, something like this. And I'm just gonna quickly add in the details for this area. I want to get into using the 2B and B pencils just so that this detail will really start to show up. Alright. I'm getting down pretty far into the tree. Hopefully, on camera it looks like, you know, a lot of what I'm doing is showing up. That's one thing I always worry about is, you know, some of the subtle details don't get picked up by the camera, but this one does pretty well with capturing the detail, so I guess I should stop worrying about it then, huh? Alright, so I got like the basic first layer here. Now I can put that pencil down. These pencils are getting short. I have to start replacing them pretty soon here. Okay, so with the B pencil, I'm gonna go in, you know, same grip, go back in at the top, and just kind of darken in this side of the tree. And remember, if you look at the mountains over here, you can see that this side over here is shaded, so it's gonna be the same thing with the trees. You want to shade in that one side. Something like this. So I usually work from the middle and kind of shade underneath the branches that I added in. It helps to add like a three-dimensional element, makes them look a bit more three-dimensional and lifelike. And I'm just going in quickly adding in the detail. I'm trying to let the natural look of the tree kind of just come through I'm not trying to be too strict about how the detail of this tree is going to look. I'm kind of letting it just kind of form on its own. I know that probably doesn't really make sense, but I guess after a while you just kind of get a feel for things, and they just kind of tend to happen. Okay, so I'm just gonna add a bit more detail work with this thing. I'm probably gonna end up working my way up and down the trees here, just kind of adding in detail here and there, not too much. Just mainly want to darken in the undersides of these branches that I added in, just so that they'll kind of show up a bit better. Now down in here, they don't really show up too well at all, just because of some of the shading we added into the background. But the 2B pencil should, or the B pencil should make quick work of that and really help to pop things out and make them show up. So down in this area, I'm going to go back and forth on both sides just to make sure that they really start to show up. Just keep in mind too that you can pretty much draw any style of tree that you want to draw in for this area. This is just the what happens to be the original type of tree that I drew in. And to be honest, I'm not sure what type of tree this is. I just kind of like the way it looks, and it's just what I draw. I'm not by any means a tree expert. It's just kind of like one of those things where you go around on Google Images and be like, ah, I like that one, let's draw that. That's how a lot of my drawings start. I get a lot of inspiration from a lot of different photos that I look at on Google, and there's a lot of different paintings that I'll see, different things like that. I get inspiration from a lot of different things. A lot of it though comes from different people that upload videos on YouTube. I just check out what they do, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And it usually gets me thinking, what can I also take into what they did, and do my own sort of thing. I'm eventually going to go back into this with an eraser as well, and just kind of tweak things up a bit. What I'll end up doing is taking the eraser and erasing things out, and go back in with an even darker pencil and really start to darken in areas of the tree. What ends up happening is when you add in too many different pencil layers, it starts to not stick anymore, I guess you could say. Like any new layer that you add on, it just won't do anything. And that's happening a little bit with what I'm doing right now. So I'm getting pretty much, towards the ending phases of this first tree. I'm going to add in the other 2 trees before I really start adding in the detail work to this one. That way I can just kind of add in all the detail work accordingly to what tree needs what. But you basically have the idea of what's going on for the first tree. I'm not going to draw all the way down to the base. In the next video I'm going to be covering the grass and the rocks that are in this area of the drawing, which isn't too much left. If hopefully a lot of you that made it this far, I just want to let you know that it's pretty much almost done. This is the final stages of the drawing right here. Just the the final detail work and everything like that. Okay. I'm gonna grab the actually for these 2 I'm gonna stick with the B pencil, and I'm gonna start in on this one. So it's gonna be the same thing as that, just with a smaller scale tree. Yeah, see, now this is really starting to show up a lot better. I need to do some work to that main tree, definitely. like I said, I can just go back in with an eraser to different areas and then fill it back in with a darker pencil just to really bring back some of that the darks that I can add in. It'll really help to bring the tree back to life. Now in this area, I'm going to take the eraser and I'm just kind of almost draw the tree with the eraser. That way I won't have anything, underneath. I should have done this with the first tree, but it's been a while since I've done this one, so I forget exactly everything that I've done. So that's another thing you can do if you want to draw in something new. You can kind of erase out the silhouette of where you expect it to be, and then just fill it in again with another pencil. It's another trick that I've come up with over the years. I don't know if I saw it from somewhere or I just did it on my own. Either way, it's just something that I've started doing that's really helped out with drawing. All these little tricks, go a long way to helping with the overall drawing process. Now this tree doesn't really get very wide at all, so it just kind of works its way down. Something like this. I'm still trying to keep what I'm doing, pretty quick. Just kind of letting the tree take its own form. Something like that. Still needs work, but that's pretty much this tree in a nutshell. It doesn't take too long to draw the basic trees. You just have to go back in afterwards and add in some of that detail work. That's all that needs to be done with that. Alright, so the last thing is just, this tree that's kind of chilling out over here on its own. So I do the same thing again with starting up on the tops of those trees. Kind of working its way down. I'm going to probably change the trajectory of this tree just a smidge, bring it down over here. Just so that it'll cover up this side of the drawing better. That was the whole thing. If you notice in the original video, it's just these two trees and then I add in a third. It was because I had no detail over here to cover up that area. So I didn't add in any background detail, and I also didn't want to draw attention over there because there's nothing left over here to really look at as far as the features within a drawing. So I added in this last tree just to kind of block off this area so that the center of attention would be more in this area. So these branches I want to make sure really down towards this area kind of really work its way towards the edge of the page. That way it'll cover up anything that I didn't previously fill in. And this tree is going to be behind this one, so as you get down to this detail here, it's all going to just be behind those branches. But this side I want to make sure that I add in enough detail. I'm going to erase out again some of that detail, or not detail, some of that pencil that's sitting behind there. That way I can add it in a bit darker here. Something like that. Now this background tree I'm probably going to leave as is. I don't want to put in too much detail to it. But this tree I do want to add in more detail for, so I'm going to go back in with the eraser like I said I was going to, and just kind of erase out small areas of the tree. You can do this if you like. This is just kind of polishing over the tree and giving it a nicer look. Take the paintbrush, kind of erase, or not erase, brush away any eraser shavings that are just hanging out on the page. I'll do a little bit to this tree, not too much. Alright, so I'm going to grab a 2B pencil and just kind of go back in to these areas and fill in where I erased with the darker pencil. That way it'll just make some of these nice shadows on the tree. Just like that. Helps the tree to look a bit more dynamic. Gives it a nice look. And I'm still doing the underhand grip. You know, usually when I draw trees, it's always the underhand grip. And different grips do different things. So when I'm doing it like this, I'm getting most of the edge of the pencil to sit on the page, so that the detail work that I add in is a bit more prominent. Or not really. I mean, it'll kind of smudge a bit more. If I were drawing this way, it would add in a lot more detail. But for what I'm doing, I don't want to have too much detail coming in. Just want to bring in some of these shadows on this side. Just something like this. And then towards the bottoms of the trees, it doesn't become such a huge issue with defining where the branches are, because a lot of these the 3 trees here are kind of mixing together, and it's kind of hard to tell where one tree starts and the other one ends. And then on this tree, I'm just gonna go back in and also add in a couple darker branches, especially on the top of the tree here. That way it'll stand out a bit more. And in the drawing, this tree was the darkest of the 3. Something like that. You can go back in. I mean, you can go back in and do a whole bunch of detail work if you really wanted to. But it's all up to you. I'm usually a fan of, really going in and adding in so much detail. That's what I like to do. 2 things that I like about drawing is adding in texture and detail, and pencil really captures both of those really well. That's why I stick to a lot of pencil work. Alright, I'm just going to take the eraser again and just kind of lightly go back in on this side of the tree and add a few highlights in. Make it look like the sun is hitting these branches, but I don't want to go too crazy with this. Just a little bit. And then more towards down here, I'm not going to have it show up as much. And then just do a little bit on this one as well. Just a tad. Something like that. Maybe go back in just a little bit. Like I said, you can do this all day. Just go back and forth with the different pencils, just adding in detail, taking away the detail, re-adding it in, retexturing, re-detailing. It's a lot of repetitive processes, but in the end, it's very enjoyable to do. And hopefully you all agree. So, like a lot of previous parts of this drawing, I get pretty carried away with the drawing process. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pencil down, and I'm going to call this part finished. So, hopefully you enjoyed this one. I want to thank you all very much for watching, and please subscribe if you want to see the last part of this video. I have one more part coming up after this one, and give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you all later. Take care.